Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be creating this template. This is a dynamic and recurrent calendar / planner template. Now, this template is dynamic because you can select whatever year, month, or day you want, and it shows up in the calendar section. It's a recurrent planner because you can add your task here in the task area, select a frequency and a start date, and it shows up in the calendar section based on that frequency. Let's take an example here. You have design marketing plan and the frequency is every weekend. Let's change this to weekly. We're going to change the start date to January 1st. Okay, so now when we move over to the calendar section, as you can see, design marketing plan shows up weekly based on the start date. If I go ahead and change this to once, it only shows up right here, January 1st, one time. So that's what we're going to create today. This template is quite versatile. You can use it as a task management system. You can also use it as a bill / subscription tracker because most bills and subscriptions come with a certain frequency. So you can set it once here and then track it month by month. The other thing you can use it for is a cleaning / maintenance tracker. If you have certain areas of the house that you want to clean based on a certain frequency, you can use this template for that as well. Here are all the steps to create this template. This video will be divided into chapters so it's easier for you to navigate and complete the tutorial. That being said, let's go ahead and get started with the tutorial. We're going to start with a blank sheet. So I'm going to click on Add Sheet, move this over here. Now what I normally do is clean up my sheet. So I remove the excess rows and the excess columns. Alright, so here is the sheet after I've cleaned it up a little bit. So I removed the excess columns. I could always add more if I need to. I just prefer to work with a smaller canvas. The other thing I did was I changed the width of the row. You can do that by right clicking and clicking on resize row and select multiple rows at the same time to change all of them at once. I also click right here to change the font type so that it automatically applies to the entire template. I change the justification to center and I change this vertical alignment to the middle. Now let's go to our checklist to see what we need to do. Okay, so we check this off. Next, we're going to create the template structure and then create the year and day drop downs. The first thing we're going to do is create this section and then create a calendar section. All right, so here we need a column for task, one for frequency, and one for start date. And as you can see, I always leave a column blank before and after a section. Okay, so this will be the column before the section, the task, frequency, and date, and this is the column after. I'm going to select these three, right click, and resize, okay? And then I'm going to change this to 20. All right, and then I'm going to resize this one because this is where the task is going to go. I'm going to change this to 300, and then these two, I'll change them to 150. So here is where we're going to add our drop downs for month, year, and day. Go here to borders, click on that. I like to use the dark gray color, so I'm going to go ahead and select that color. For this outer border, I will use the solid line. Go ahead and make sure that is highlighted. And I'm going to select this option right here, outer borders. Here is where we're going to put the header, and then I'll add an outer border for the task area. Here is where the calendar is going to be. So right now I'm just creating big outlines, and then we can make changes later on. So here's another outline, and then I'm going to make this smaller, 20. And then finally I'll select the first one, select the last one, at the top and the bottom. I'm going to right click, resize, and make that 20. So if you are following this tutorial step by step, meaning you're using my exact rows and columns, okay, so when I cleaned it up, I went all the way from 1 to 39. You can add more, add less, depending on how many rows you want showing up on your calendar, okay? And then I changed these to 20 just to make sure this space and this space matches, so the external areas all have the same size. Back here in our calendar, you can see that we have columns right before the task area for checkboxes. So we're going to do that next. So going back here, we're going to select every other column and change that to the column for the checkboxes. And then make sure that before you right click, the icon is hand and not the arrow, okay? So right click, resize, and we're going to make that 25. And here is where the task is going to fit in the calendar. So just select all of them like we did with the other one. Right click, and I'm going to make this 150. Actually, I'm going to make it bigger, so I'm going to change this from 150 to 200. Okay, and then you could always change it later. We're just starting out with a general structure, but things can be adjusted to fit your specific. So here is where the days of the week will go, and here is where the actual dates will go. So I'm going to change this to a lighter color and do the bottom border only. Then I'm going to decide on how many rows I want for each calendar day. And again, you can decide whatever works for you. You can make more or less, really depending on what you want. But for this template, I'm going to make 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the 7th one would be the next dates section, okay? So I'm going to make sure it's on this lighter color and do top and bottom, okay? Now it's hard to see right now because we still have the grid lines, but when we turn it off, it would be clear. So now I'm going to copy this and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and paste it here. And then do that a few more times until we have an entire calendar. Okay, so for this last one, I have an extra row. And what I'm going to do is just select any of the rows in the middle and delete. So all of them should have 6 rows in between each date section. Now I'm going to turn off the grid so we can see exactly what we're working on. Go to View, Show, Grid Line. Okay, so as you can see, we have our outline here. And what I'm going to do is select this all the way down. So you can see I'm selecting 2 columns, this smaller one and this main one. And I'm going to go back here. And I do want to use this lighter color, so I will click on right border and then repeat the step, go all the way down. So right before the column, right click on border, right border. And now to save time, select this entire thing, use the paint format and just repeat it over and over again until I get all the way to the end. And here's what we have so far. So right now I'm feeling this is still a little bit too small. So I'm going to go ahead and just highlight the space one more time. And I'm going to right click. I'm going to change it to 300. And finally, I want to add the lines in between each task. So select the entire area. Go back to borders. Now, this is the color I want to use, but I want to use a different border style. So I'm going to click on border style and click on this one right here. And I only want the internal horizontal border. So this option right here. When I click on that, you can see that it shows up like this. Now I can go ahead and select the entire space. And I'll make this smaller so it's easier to maneuver. And now I can go ahead and use my paint format. I'm going to paste it right here and just repeat it until I get all the way to the bottom. All right, so we did lose a border. I'm going to go ahead and put the border back, change the color and change the type and top border. So far, so good. And then we're going to do a similar step for this area. So the outline is done. And now we're going to create this section right here. So go back here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need to add one more. So I'm going to click right here, insert row below. Okay, so now we have enough space for the header and the different sections for the drop down. And then now, because we have an additional row here, so instead of 6, we have 7. I'm just going to go ahead and select this one right here and right click. So everything now should be the same as it was before. And we'll have the additional row we need here. Now I'm going to select these 2, click on merge cells, so merge these 2 right here. I'm going to put some internal borders. Okay, so this is going to say year, month, and day. And I'm going to merge these 3. Normally you can select the 2 cells you want to merge and merge them, but to save time, because they're right next to each other, I'm going to select the entire thing, go to merge type, merge horizontally. Okay, so now I have these merged right here. Now we can type year, month, and day. Now we're going to create drop downs for year, month, and day. There are 2 ways to do it. The first way to do it would be to click in that cell, insert drop down, okay, and then you're going to type the year 2025, 2026, add another 7, okay, and then you can change the style. I'm going to use arrow, reject the input, click done. So when we click here, you can see the options show up like so. The other way to do it would be to use another sheet. Click on add sheets, and right here we'll type January, okay, and then select it and drag it all the way down till we get to December. Just delete these and do the same here, but type Monday and drag it down, okay, and I'm just going to delete the extra. So we only need through Sunday and January through December. Now we're going to go back to our sheet and do the same thing. Click on insert and click drop down, or you go to data validation. It's the same thing. Select here, add another row. And now we want to click on drop down from range. Make sure this is selected, select data range, select the entire range, click OK, and do the same thing for advanced. Click change it to arrow, make sure reject input is selected, click done. And when we go back to our sheets, you can see that we have January through December available to select. So we can repeat the same step for the day. Okay. And then we can select our date here. If you want to change this from drop down to drop down from range, you can do the same. So go back to sheet. We can add 2025, 2026, select the two, then drag it down. Go back to our templates, click edit and select drop down from range. And then we're going to go ahead and select this range. Click OK, done. And now when we go back here, you can see we have the entire range. I like to do drop down from range because everything here would be correct. You don't have to worry about any typos or missing any month or any day. All right, so back to our tutorial checklist. Create year, month, and day drop down. So that's done. So now we're going to create the task section. Okay, and here is what it looks like. Task, frequency, and date. And we need drop downs here as well. So go back to our calendar. So task, frequency, and start dates. Okay, so for task, I'm going to go ahead and select it. I like this area to be justified left, okay? And frequency and start date, I'll leave it center justified. And then for the frequency, we need to add drop down. So I'm going to go ahead and select the entire range and add rule. You can type it directly here or use a reference sheet. I will go ahead and use drop down from range and go back to my reference sheet and type in some frequencies. Once, daily. Okay, so here are the frequencies: once, daily, weekly, monthly, every weekend, bi-weekly, which would be twice a month, and then monthly. So now I can go ahead and select data range, highlight this entire range, hit OK, and done. Now when I go back here, I have my options for frequency. I can also go back, click edit, and change the color, assign different colors, and click done. And now it says, do you want to apply to all? Click apply to all so that it shows up for all of the options here. For the start date column, go ahead and select everything as well. Add rule. Now we're going to change this from drop down to is valid date. Okay, because we want that date picker option to show up every time we double click in that space. So valid dates, reject input, and click done. So now if I go back here and I double click, you can see the date picker option shows up. Go back to our checklist. We've created a task section and we have added our recurring frequency. So we can go ahead and check this off as well. We have created a calendar outline, so we can check this off as well. And now we're going to add formulas and checkboxes. Okay, so let's go back here and I'll show you what we need to do. We're going to add these checkboxes and then we're going to start adding our formulas. We're going to add out one formula here so that when we select the year and the month, it shows up right here. And then we're going to add formulas to these areas so that the days of the week show up and the dates show up here as well. So go back here and first we're going to add this formula here. I'm going to grab it from this area. If you're using the exact rows and columns that I am using, this formula should work if you copy and paste it. I will have this template that we are creating today available for our Patreon subscribers. So if you don't want to worry about getting the formulas correct or getting the structure correct, you can join my Patreon. This template will be available for you to download. For my paid Patreon subscribers, thank you very much. For my current subscribers, if you want to support me, that's one easy way to do it. So now we're going to copy this formula. So I'm just grabbing the formula right here. It's a very easy formula, really. It's just referencing these two cells. So go back here and I'm going to paste the formula here and click enter. Okay, so if I change this to 2028, you can see the date changes. If I change this to January, you can see it changes, but I don't want it displayed like this. I want it to say month and year. So to change this, we're going to go to formats, number, custom date and time. Click on that. And here's what we want. We want the month to show up as full name. And we don't want the day to show up, so just delete that. And we can go ahead and delete the comma right here and the excess space. And for the year, I'm just making sure it shows up as full numeric year. Click and apply. And now it looks like this. Make this smaller and change the font size to 24. Make it bold. Okay. So now if we play around and go back to 2025, February, you can see that it works exactly how it's supposed to. Next, we want to add the formulas to create the actual calendar. So the weekdays should show up here and the week dates should show up here. So we're also going to copy the formula from here. This is a really long formula. Because it's quite long, I will leave this specific formula in the description box so you can just copy directly from there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this and go back here. I'm going to paste it right here. I'm going to paste that same formula right here. So now that we have two dates here, we want to add additional dates in this sections, right? So I'm going to go here, click equals, reference this cell +1. And here we have the 28. And I'm going to repeat it equals this cell +1. And if you want to make things faster, you can go ahead and copy this and just paste formula only and just repeat the steps for all of the wider columns. Paste special formula only. And the reason why I'm doing formula only instead of just paste is just to make sure I don't mess up any formatting. And then we're going to just copy this entire area, copy all of them, and now click here and do paste special formula only. If we double click here, that is actually referencing this cell right here. So it's working as we intend. Now we need this to say Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and we need this to say date. Right now it's showing an entire date. That's not what we want. So just like we did for this area, okay, we're going to go ahead and select the entire row, format, number, custom date and time. So select this option and just delete the ones we don't need. So we're deleting the year and the month and any additional like space or comma. Click apply. So now it shows up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay. And if we change this to Tuesday, Tuesday shows up. The formulas are working the way they're supposed to work. Now we're going to select this entire column. We're going to do the same. Go to format, number, custom date and time. And then instead of it showing up as Tuesday, click on the drop down and change it to day with or without leading zero, whichever one you want. I'm going to choose the first one and apply. Okay. And then if you want, you can change the format to right justified so the date shows up right here. I mean, it's really up to you. However way you want it, you can leave it in the middle. Okay, so now we want to repeat the similar steps for the rest of the calendar. So here we're going to click equals, and now we're going to reference this cell, but instead of doing +1, we're going to do +7. Okay. And then what I'm going to do next is copy these cells. Okay. And paste right here because we started copying from here. We're going to start pasting from here. Right click, paste formula only. And if you double click, you can see that it is referencing this cell, so it's working the way it's supposed to, and the numbers are correct. So we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then now we can go ahead and copy the entire cell. And I'm actually just going to format this as well. Copy it and paste it right here. Now I don't have to worry about pasting this right here directly because it's the exact same formatting. I'm just going to go ahead and paste and do the same for this one. So we have the 28, 29, 30, 30, 31, and this is for January. So now we have February starting here, February 1st, and it goes all the way to February 28th because this is not a leap year, and then it starts counting March 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Let's test another month, March. So we have February dates all the way to 28th, and then March starts and it goes all the way to the 31st of March. And finally, I'm going to add checkboxes. So we want the checkboxes right here because the task is going to show up here. We want the checkboxes right before the task. Go to insert checkbox, and I like my checkboxes a little bit smaller, so I will decrease the size just a little bit and then repeat the steps for this section. And then now, because the formatting here is the same as the one here and the rest of the calendar, I'm going to go ahead and just copy the entire column and paste it starting from here. We have one more formula that's going to go here. But before we do that, I'm going to add some color just to make the template look a little bit better. You can use whatever color you want, but if you use the colors right here, this custom area, you can automatically change the colors to whatever you want without having to go to each individual space to change them. So you can see here I have applied this color palette to this template, and if I want to change it automatically, I'll make this smaller so you can see all at once. I can go here, I can go to streamline, click on this pencil icon. I'm going to click on done so it closes that color palette, and then it shows you the different options that are here. So if I want to change it to vintage, you can see it changes everything except for these colors because these colors have been added with conditional formatting. They match the colors here. If I wanted to customize it further, I can go to customize, and let's say this is the color I don't like. I can click on that, and let's say instead I want to use this orange color. Click on that and it changes it to the orange color. I'm not going to use these colors. This is just to show you how it works. Back here, I can now go ahead and select the colors that I want. For here, I'm going to use this dark color. Now I can change the font to white to contrast the dark color. Go ahead and change the colors in your template to match your specific taste and style. So let's go back to our checklist to see how we're doing. So we're back here. We can check this off. And we've also done this step, which is to add the colors from theme colors. So check this off. And the last step would be to add our recurrent formulas. Before that, we're going to add our task. Placeholder number 1, copy it all the way down, add frequencies, once, daily, weekly, monthly, every weekend, bi-weekly, once. And then add some start dates. If you want to change the format here, go ahead and select the entire column, go to Formats, Number, and then you can change the formats. So let's say you wanted to say something like this, do that, click Apply. So now it shows up as a shortened form of the month, the day, and the year. So let's select a few more dates. Okay, so now we need to work on placing the formulas here. So the way the formula is going to work is that it's going to review this frequency, the start dates, compare it to the dates here, okay? And then pull the task into this space. So right here's the formula, and you can pause the video and copy it. Reviewing the formula real quick before we copy it into our table. You can see that the frequencies I have here show up here. So once, daily, every weekend, weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly. So it has to be exact. So if you're having issues with the formula not working, there might be a typo here or there might be a typo here. If you want additional frequencies, you have to add the frequencies in the formula. Okay, so now let's copy this. And then I'm going to go ahead here and paste it here. We need to merge these cells because now the formula is referencing this cell and there is no date here. Okay, so we're going to merge 2 cells. Okay, and once we've done that, now the formula is able to reference this cell. Okay, so now make sure all of these cells are merged. Okay, so as you can see, the dates are off, right? So here it's showing up the 31st, which is not correct. So now we're just going to go back here and change the formula, just delete the formula that's there. I'm going to do equals, select this cell, +1. Okay, so now we have the 26 showing up. So we just need to correct the formulas. Do the same thing, equals the cell, +1. And now we're going to copy it and paste it here. Right click, formula only. Okay, so 27, 28, 1, 2, 3. So that is fine. And now we have to just repeat the steps, merge, and adjust the formula to make sure it works. And now that the dates are in the correct place, we can go ahead and add the formulas to the top row. So I'm going to copy this and I'm just going to paste it here. Formula only. By the way, if you want to do paste normal, it's fine. Then you can adjust the formatting later on. This is just to save time. Next, we're going to select this entire row. And again, this is just to save time. We're going to copy it. Right here, we can paste it. We don't have to do formula only because the formatting should be the same for this area and this area. So I'm just going to paste it and do the same for the first row here and the last one. Make this bigger. And once I double click here, it's referencing the correct date. It's only selecting this area, but because it's merged, it's actually referencing the 18th. So it's working the way it's supposed to. Okay, so let's take a look at what the template looks like now. So we have tasks flowing into the template. We need to test them to make sure they're working the way they're supposed to. So for task number 1, it should only show up once. So let's look for task placeholder number 1. It's supposed to start January 13th. So this is March. Let's go to January. Okay, so January 13th, we have our task placeholder 1, and it doesn't show up anywhere else, so we know this is working correctly. Let's check one more. Placeholder number 2 is daily, starting January 20th. So when we look at the daily dates before January 20th, it doesn't show up. But when we go to 20th, placeholder 2 shows up daily. Let's do one more. Let's check out this monthly task, number 6, starting January 28th. It shows up here and nowhere else, so it works the way it's supposed to, but let's check it out for another month. Change this to February, and we're going to look for February 28th. Task number 6 shows up here. So everything is working the way it's supposed to. For a final touch, if you want, this is an optional step, but if we go to my original example, you can see that it actually highlights the cells based on the frequency. So all the daily tasks have this yellow color. All the weekly tasks would have this orange color. So look for a weekly task right here. Inventory audit is a weekly task. It has the orange color. The bi-weekly task, so twice a month, would have this purple color. That is created using conditional formatting. You can stop here and the template works, but if you want to take it to the next level, you can do that using conditional formatting. Hello, so this is a post-edit edition. While I was editing this video, I realized that the steps required to show you how to add this conditional formatting, which you would see at the end of the video, but you will not see how to do it. It will require a separate video because it made this video really long, and I figured it would be worth doing it as its own separate video because I don't want to rush through the steps because it's a lot of steps and you have to be careful because if you make one mistake, it will not work. So when you see the video towards the end, you would see these colors that show up here, but you will not see how I created them. I will create a separate video showing you how I use conditional formatting to achieve this result. Okay, so now back to the video where I will jump into showing you how to create the scratching effect, which is also a conditional formatting feature. The other thing that you can do is to add a scratching effect. This is another formatting step, which is where once you check this box, it crosses it off. If I go here, you can see that if I check this, it crosses it off. Select this entire column, go to conditional formatting, add rule, and now we're going to reference this cell G4 because that's where the first one is. We're going to click custom formula. Now we're going to say equals $, G4 is true, and true just means it's checked. And then now we're going to change the color to none and change the text color to a light gray color and strike through because that's what's going to give the striking effect, and click done. So what you'll notice is that even though this is checked off, nothing shows up, and that's because of the order. We're going to move this all the way to the top. So now that we've done this, you can see that it shows up right here. If I uncheck this, it goes back to this normal color. So now I'm going to just repeat the steps that I did here to apply to each individual column. So go back here. This is the formula. Click on it. Add another row. So now we have a copy of this. Change the range to this entire range here. And then change the formula. So instead of G, we're going to select I because that's where the checkbox is. So if I4 is true, apply this conditional formatting. Click done. And then now if we check this, again, it's not showing up because of the order. So go back here, change the order, add it to the top, and now it shows up. Okay? And it should work for every checkbox in this row. And then you repeat the steps for every single column. One last thing I want to show you is today is January 13th and the date is highlighted. That is also conditional formatting. So I'm going to go back to my templates, select the entire range right here, go back to conditional formatting, add rule, and the entire range is selected. So everything is green, but don't worry about this color for now. Go to format rules, date is today, okay? And then we're going to change the color to whatever we want. So if we want today's date to be this deep plum color, and change the text color to white to contrast this color, click done. Okay, and then make this normal size, change this to January because we're looking for January 13th. So January 13th shows up with this plum color. And then one more thing I'm going to show you before we wrap things up is because of how wide this calendar is, and I'm using a pretty wide screen and I still have to scroll all the way down, go all the way to the end until you see a hand, and we're going to pull this right here. Okay, so when we pull it here, this is what happens. Then it holds this in place and then you can scroll back and forth. In addition to that, you can actually group these cells and collapse them. So select the entire range, go to view, group B to E, and collapse. So that way, if you only want to review the calendar, that is out of the way. To reuse this calendar, you can just duplicate it, right? So click on this, click on duplicate, and you make another copy of it. And then you can change this to February, for example. Hit enter and change the calendar to February. Let's say Monday start. Okay. And now the task you enter here will not carry over to this month. You have to manually copy them. For example, if I do a new task in January and change this to 12, task placeholder 12. If I go to February, it doesn't show up here and it doesn't show up here because these two tabs do not communicate with each other. If there are tasks in the old month that you want to recur, just copy them from this month and place them here and it would carry over to this month. So now let's go back and cross this off. I already talked about my Patreon membership. So I'm going to cross this off. Like I said before, this will be available for my paid Patreon members only. So thank you for those that are members. And the last thing I'm going to do is to show you the one that I have for sale is more comprehensive, and I will show you what that looks like. Okay, so here is the paid version of the template that I have created. This is way more comprehensive. It has a lot of flexibility built into the template. The first thing you'll notice is that all the months are available and ready to go. you have a separate tab that you add in your task. And because the tasks are controlled in a central area, they automatically flow into all of the months. And there's an overview area if you want to plan your year ahead of time, monthly goals, quarterly goals, things like that. And in this template, we also have a little section where you can track your weekly summary. And finally, I want to show you the frequencies we have here. So we have a lot more frequencies that are available, and we also have task categories, and we have a start date and an end date. So you can choose the day you want to start the task to show up and the day you want the task to stop showing up, and it would stop showing up in your calendar. So this is way more comprehensive, and it does take a long time to create. So I do have this available for purchase in my digital template shop, and I will leave links in the description box so you can go ahead and check it out. And that is where I would wrap this tutorial up. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's a long tutorial, but it does take a lot of time to create these templates, and I want to make sure you have all the steps that you need. So that is where I'm going to end things today. Thank you for sticking all the way till the end, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.